Yes, what is up everyone? I am back home for a few days after doing a pickup game in Dallas, and it's nice to be back in this room and to sleep in my own bed before I have to leave again to go to Boston and New York City for some pickup games this week. So if you live in Boston, it's going to be this Wednesday night from 8 to 10 p.m. and then New York City will be on Saturday afternoon from 12 to 2 p.m. So follow me at Jimmy Conrad on Twitter and Instagram for more of the details if you live nearby, because you have to come. It's going to be rad. And dare I say, Conradical. And do you know what else is going to be Conradical? Today's new weekend and rewind format is I do a little worst to first in terms of who had the worstest weekend to who had the bestest. And I'm not sure either one of those are actually words, worstest and bestest. But whatever, let's start with the worstest. Roma, Roma, Roma. Because one of my favorite Italian clubs, who also have one of the best social media accounts around, I think it's AS Roma in English, lost at home to Spal 2-0. And even worse than that, if that's possible, Edin Dzeko is hitting that time of the season where he's missing sitters, and that's not going to help matters at all. So it might be time to sack their manager Di Francesco. And the co-worstest is going to have to go to Real Madrid after they lost at home to Levante 2-1, which is embarrassing by itself, but it's also their third loss in a row, which means, as you would expect, their manager Juan Lopetegui is on the hot seat, and he should be. This is his fifth loss in all competitions since taking over, and before Marcelo's consolation goal at the end of this game, he presided over the second longest scoring drought in club history, which lasted 481 minutes, which was over 5 games without a goal. And yes, I know that the players have to be held accountable too, but you can't fire all of the players, so he's going to have to be the one that goes. But who do you bring in? Arsene Wenger? Antonio Conte? Is that really what the team needs? Another new boss, another new voice, another new formation and tactics? Or is this just the natural course a team takes after they have peaked? And I definitely think this group has peaked, and after they lost their best player. Now, I think it's a mix of a bunch of these things, so I wouldn't fire Lopetegui yet, but if he gets blown out in El Clasico this weekend, then I think you have to do it. And speaking of El Clasico, let's talk about the next not as worst as the worstest, but it's still pretty bad. It's Leo Messi, who 5 minutes after scoring the second goal and then second place Barcelona's big 4-2 win over then first place Sevilla, he broke his arm during an awkward landing, and I still do not want to watch it because I think it's gross, and he'll now be out for 3 weeks, which is expected to rule him out of 5 games in total in both La Liga and the Champions League, which includes him missing his first El Clasico in 11 years. Which, as you've come to expect, I've got 2 things to say about this. One, anytime Messi missed out due to injury over the last few years, Neymar would always be the guy that stepped up and played his best for the club, but now with Neymar gone, I'm curious as to whether Philippe Coutinho or Ousmane Dembele or someone else can do the same. Also, I know the team struggled when Messi didn't start about a month ago. Do you remember that? But the players knew he was there, that he could help off the bench, and he did. However, now that he won't be there at all, I think his teammates will have a different mentality because they know they have to step up because they can't rely on Messi in any way to save their bacon. So be on the lookout for who's going to be the guy for Barcelona this weekend and moving forward. And the second thing I wanted to say is if Lopetegui can't beat a Barcelona team without its best player, then he is definitely getting fired. And now let's jump to a little less on the worstest to bestest scale, and it's Tyrion Reed, because in his first game in charge of Monaco, they lost 2-1 away from home to Strasbourg, which is already Monaco's 6th loss in 10 league games. Now, if you remember when they won the title 2 seasons ago, they only lost 3 games the whole time. So it's clear the French legend has his work cut out for him as he looks to help his team regain a feeling of confidence and invincibility. Do you like what I did there, Henri? And invincible, it doesn't really matter. Let alone try to catch PSG, who set a league record by winning their 10th straight game to start the season, or even second place Lille. They're not going to catch them either, who beat Dijon 2-1 to stay 8 points behind the Parisian Giants. And now, actually, you know what? Can we start this all over? Because I want to put Newcastle as the f***ing worstest of all time after they lost at home to Brighton, which sends my tune to the bottom of the table and helps us tie the record for the worst home start to a Premier League season with 5 straight losses. I mean, we are a goddamn disgrace. So Mike Ashley, that f***ing of an owner, needs to sell the club immediately to someone who cares or someone who has a gajillion dollars, because nobody wants you to own the team anymore, big guy. No one. All right, where was I? Yes, we're starting to get to the middle of the list where it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either, which means we got to talk a little Juventus, who dropped points for the first time all season when they gave up the 1-0 lead in their 1-1 draw at home against Genoa, but at least they didn't lose. Also, with regular captain Giorgio Chiellini starting this one on the bench, manager Maxi Allegri made Leo Bonucci the captain, which I thought was pretty surprising given Bonucci's move to Milan last season and just his interactions with Juve fans overall. So I don't know if you agree with this move or not, or if you think this was Allegri's way of showing support for Bonucci with the supporters, and maybe even support for him as a player, since he's had some lapses in concentration this season, which thankfully hadn't cost the team any points, Well, until this game when he lost his mark. Also ×2, Juve's goal was scored by none other than Cristiano Ronaldo, and it was a very special one because it was the 400th goal of CR7's club career, making him the first player in history to score 400 goals in Europe's top 5 leagues, so I'm sure his weekend was a little better than it was for his teammates because it cemented GOAT status in his mind, and to many others, of course. But still, not getting the full 3 points against a Genoa team that they are clearly better than, and especially at home, it's pretty disappointing. And next on my list, I think we're finally in that living up to expectations part of it. It's Mohamed Salah. Yes, the much talked about reigning Premier League Golden Boot winner scored his first goal in England in a month and his 4th overall in the league this season to help Liverpool grind out a hard-fought 1-0 win away from home against the always difficult to play against Huddersfield, which I feel like is the benchmark that he has set for us now, because after his season last season, I fully expect him to score game winners in every single game, so congrats to him and Liverpool for meeting my expectations. And let's see, who else was in this category of meeting my expectations? I think Manchester City should be in there for crushing former goalkeeper Joe Hart in Burnley 5-0. And Robert Lewandowski for scoring against Wolfsburg again. This time he had 2 goals and an assist in Bayern Munich's must-win 3-1 victory. And PSV, Ajax, and Feyenoord for stomping on inferior opposition in Holland 6-0, 4-0, and 3-0 respectively. And Atletico Madrid because they can never seem to score more than 1 goal in a game, which led to their 1-1 draw with Villarreal. And the one and only mighty Celtic for beating Hibs 4-2, which puts the Hoops in second, only 3 points behind league leaders Hearts before they eventually win the league title, as they do. And Cruz Azul for losing again in Liga MX, this time a 2-0 loss to Querétaro, which is their 3rd loss in their last 5 games, which is proving yet again why they are considered the biggest chokers in Mexico. And for some big-name designated players in MLS, also known as DPs. And fun fact for you, these DPs don't count against the salary cap for your team. You can pay them whatever you want, which is just part of the wacky rules over here. And isn't it awesome? It's awesome. Anyway, Wayne Rooney of DC United and Zlatan of the LA Galaxy both made huge impacts and scored big goals in the respective clubs' must-win games to make their playoff dreams a reality. Now, thankfully for DC, they got in this weekend with their win, but LA needs to beat the Houston Dynamo at home on the last day of the season to pull off the miracle. Anyway, let's keep moving up the best to the best ladder, and up next is I'm kind of surprised by what they did, but I'm not really surprised either. And I have 2 options, but I can't decide who's the best fit. Is it Watford, who stunned Wolves 2-0, a game that Wolves were hosting at a place where they rarely lose? Or was it Tottenham, who with their somewhat surprising, grinded out 1-0 win away from home over one of their many London rivals, West Ham? They have quietly put together the best start to a Premier League season in their history. And this is without them playing in their new stadium, which will probably never ever get done, or without them signing any new players over the summer, or any other drama that could throw them off. So I think it's a testament to their manager and their players that their less is more approach is working. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. And yes, I'm being positive about Spurs. First time for everything. But a smidge more impressive than that was and is Borussia Dortmund, who are currently and deservedly on top of the table in the Bundesliga after they beat Stuttgart 4-0 away from home this weekend, which is the first time in their history that they have scored 4 or more goals in 4 straight league games after they beat Nürnberg 7-0, then Bayer Leverkusen 4-2, then Augsburg 4-3, and now this game. Also, guess who scored again? That's right, Paco Alcacer. The Spanish international now has scored 11 goals in his last 7 games for club and country, and the best part, he's only started and played the full 90 minutes in 1 of those 7 games. Usually he comes on as a sub, which makes his scoring rate even more impressive. And then even higher up on my list, it's a very well done to 2 teams, but again, I'm not sure who deserves the higher billing. Is it Inter Milan, who needed a late winner from Mauro Icardi to nab all 3 points over AC Milan in the Milan derby, which is Inter's 7th straight win in a row, which should give them a ton of confidence heading to Barcelona for their midweek Champions League game. And a fun fact for you, if you can believe it, it's the 5th straight Milan derby where Icardi has scored, which is ridiculous. Or maybe you think it's Melbourne City, who came from behind to beat their rivals and the defending A-League champs, the Melbourne Victory 2-1 in the Melbourne Derby, which is a great game to start any season, on a very favorable VAR call, and on super sub Riley McGee scoring on his first touch of the game, which proves, even though you know that I don't believe in luck, that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And then even one step closer to the top, it's all these crazy games where some players were playing out of their minds in leagues outside of England, so you might not have heard of them because you're so focused on the Premier League, got like this narrow vision, tunnel vision. Like Joseph Ilicic, who had a hat-trick for Atalanta in their big 5-1 win over the Flying Donkeys of Kievo Verona. Or Luka Jovic, who scored 5 goals for Frankfurt versus Fortuna Dusseldorf. Or Jonas Hoffmann, who had 3 goals in Mönchengladbach's 4-0 beatdown to Mainz. And I'm sure many others that I missed that you'll mention in the comments, but I wanted to give these guys in particular some respect for their incredible performances. And then finally, it might not have been the bestest result for either club, but it was the bestest entertainment for me and my fellow neutrals. It was Chelsea versus Manchester United, but there's so much to talk about, I'm not really sure what to focus on. Is it Paul Pogba for pouting after he lost his mark for Chelsea's first goal, which for me is unacceptable as a leader because it's clear that he's trying to shift responsibility of what happened to someone else, which in this case is Victor Lindelof, who I know probably deserves a lot of blame a lot of the time, but it wasn't on this play. So I'm not a fan of this behavior, even though I think Pogba had a good game overall, which I think was in large part due to Juan Mata being on the field, which took some pressure off of Pogba for having to be the main link-up player as United transition from the defense to the attack. Or maybe we should take a moment to shower Anthony Martial with praise because he stepped up in a big game and put his team on his shoulders with a huge 2 goals when they desperately needed someone to take charge, which again shows why he's so highly rated and why people get frustrated with him when he doesn't play at this level consistently, because we can all see what he's capable of. Or maybe it's the concentration and we could argue leadership that is needed to close out games if United want to be a top team this season. Or on the flip side, maybe we could talk about how Chelsea fought back from disappointment, from giving up their 1-0 lead to earn a tough 2-2 draw, which is a sign of never giving up and always having belief, which are important characteristics to have for any team that wants to be a champion. Or maybe we should talk about the excessive celebration by Chelsea's assistant coach Marco Ianni after Ross Barkley equalized in injury time, which was him fist bumping and talking shit to Jose Mourinho and the Manchester United bench, not once but twice. Now I know that Mourinho is getting flack for reacting in, let's say, an unsavory manner and making the game about him again instead of the players and the entertaining game they played in, but I actually want to give Mourinho and his staff, particularly Michael Carrick, credit for not reacting immediately after Ianni's first pass past the bench. I mean, personally, that alone would have set me off because I would have been pissed that we gave up a late goal, that's first, and then gave up a late goal to my former club, that's second, and then whose fans were abusing me all game, that's third. So to see this jackass rubbing it in my face would have taken me to the next level when I was already on tilt. So when he went back for a second pass to say something else, I would have gone after him, and you would have too. And if you say otherwise, you're lying to yourself. So you need to get off that high horse that you're on and come mingle down here with the rest of us in reality. And speaking of reality, let's name a few winners who correctly predicted my favorite scoreline 2-2 for the Chelsea United game, and they will win either warm ballers gear or the kit for the club I'll be managing next season, the San Francisco Glens. Up the Glens, which I can sign if you want, but no pressure if you don't want my autograph. It won't hurt my feelings too much. Anyway, I know there were quite a few of you that got the right score, but only 3 that could win this time, and they are, drumroll please. No, drumroll is not the person. Anyway, Daniel B, Josh Maximus, and Nigel Pereira. So be on the lookout, fellas. I'll be reaching out to you very soon, and congrats. All right, that is it. That is all I got. So thank you for watching. As always, come join me in Boston and NYC this week if you can, and be on the lookout for a new career mode episode dropping very soon. It's going to be a good one. #ENYOIN, and I'll see you soon. Later.